Hello and welcome to Lands Unknown Live. My name is Will, and today we are joined by the intrepid Biblaridion
Hello.
as we continue to evolve the Gryphons into this second geologic period here. And I think this is going to be the second to last stream for this series. Um, and we're going to be looking at the orange and tenant Gryphons. I
Very
think the
good.
last ones that we got out of them were. What do we go in here? Do I have an extra? There we go. We got. You know what? I can just go to the thing. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
Boom.
I do also have a little bit of an announcement at the top of the stream
Go
for
for it.
those who are interested. The recordings from SpecCon are now being released. Madeline is sort of staggering them to release them a few days apart. And my talk actually was released, I think, an hour ago.
Yes, at
So
9 a.m. my time.
yes, so you can go and watch that on the Madeline James World Build channel,
Mm-hmm.
if you like. Can I post a link in the StreamYard chat thing? And then
You
I have to,
should be able
no, I
to
have to.
post it under comments, can't you?
It says I need to connect through YouTube, and it's telling me to
Oh
do
my
all sorts
goodness.
of
I'll
other
do it.
things.
I'll do
So
it. Let me. And Nikolai's came out 3 days
yes.
ago. I watched that. That was quite fun to teach folks, how to do it in a very simple, heuristic way while still getting in a bunch of ideas from geology and earth sciences.
hmm And the next
Here we
one
go.
will be Artifexian's talk on music building.
Ooh. There we go. There's the link to your thing so folks can go check that out after the fact. I'm certainly going to be doing that.
Very good.
Brilliant. Yeah, so last time we were no, not last time. Last time we were doing the Veil Griffins, and I gave them some color, so we can look at them in a sec. But this time we're going to be developing on the Tene Griffins. I believe the whatchamacallit ones. The carnivorous ones are now orange griffins, and the herbivorous ones are still going to be the Tene Griffins. And if we go to the last stream, I added a bit of color here and honed in on the design elements a bit. So, this Tripon Griffin is, somewhat standard. They'll probably have like more specific like species names, like maybe this is a northern Tripon Griffin or a
hmm
snowy Tripon Griffin, something like that. And then we've got this more robust one, which I had a name for, or I had a proposed name for. I think I wrote them down in the Evernote. Let's go to that. I'll do that on my phone so people can keep looking at the griffin. But yeah, he's got big tusks, has that bone horn crest, as well as a thagomizer. And Bib had a great recommendation prior to the beginning of the stream to include rattles.
Hmm.
Could it thwack someone with the rattles?
Um, it's an interesting idea because it would certainly be like generally speaking, with these sorts of weapons, like they're only used as like a last resort. You
Hmm.
pretty much always, um, like the example that always comes to mind for me, just because of where I happen to live, is the red deer on the Isle of Rum, where
Hmm.
they have these very impressive antlers, but they are only very rarely actually resort to using them. They have this sort of bellowing behavior where
Oh,
they yeah, emit this very haunting, loud, bellowing call when they see a rival, and usually that alone is enough to dissuade them, and any like actual physical confrontation isn't necessary. So it would make sense to me that there would be some way for them to send some sort of warning signal before resorting to just, bashing them with a big heavy thagomizer. So if there
that
was
is
some kind of
true.
rattle element to it to sort of draw a potential rival or predator's attention to the thagomizer, and they say, "Ah, okay, there's a big, thing there." Like the rattle helps to kind of, emphasize
Hmm.
that this is a dangerous thing. Then I think that makes some sense.
Yeah, I think that could be cool.
Mm.
Welcoming back
I
Soup
guess
Crime and Writer 2, yo and hello.
if we wanted to
But yeah,
go really crazy,
really
this
crazy.
is so if you had an arrangement where you had like a series of spikes, kind of like a stegosaur tail,
Hmm.
or even actually, yeah, if you had a bunch of like quills or something. Because
Yep.
what I'm thinking of is it the streaked tenrec or is it the striped tenrec? I can't remember what the name is, but it's um really weird in that it's definitely the only mammal. It might be the only vertebrate in general to use stridulation as a means of communication, because it's got
Oh, there we go.
this
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
special set. Yeah, look at this thing. It's got these quills, and there's a special set of quills on its back
Hmm.
that it can use special muscles to scrape the quills against each other that makes this little squeaking noise.
Oh, that's
And
cute.
so I guess, yeah, if you had these, quills along the tail, then they could do the same thing. So as a sort of warning display, they could rattle or scrape these quills, I
I
guess.
I am working on something similar for some of the monotrematiforms.
Ah,
Um, because there's a group of animals that are related to the what are they? Um, boop. So there's a group of animals that are related to the sprites that are like arboreal quilled monotrematiforms. Some of them develop their quills into these wing structures and fly around. But there are a bunch of them that are still around that have all these quills. And I think one of those is going to make an appearance in the next one. And
mm,
they make, what was it, the striation noises as well
yeah, the
to
stridulation.
keep things, strigulation, ugh, to keep things away.
Very good.
So it may be interesting for yeah, I'm not sure about quills. I do like spikes.
Mm. If you had,
This one doesn't
yeah,
have any spikes, but
just
some
some
of them
spikes that could
could
be
have
sort of rattled
spikes.
together. Yeah.
Yes. Yo and hello, and yes, the Tenric is very cute. Hello, Madeline. Best
Hello,
of
Madeline.
luck on your language, Juelos. So yeah, so this will be the Gardon Vert Griffin.
Mm.
And then we have the Azure griffins. These are the very large relatives of the Trepon griffins. And I decided to go with blue. And uh, yeah, they're big. They can be blue. They don't. They don't really have anything to worry about. The really small critters are also blue. Like I was looking at a bunch of lizards to see the kind of blues that they have and their coloration. So, and Bib, as you were mentioning, use a decent amount of blue in your creature designs as well.
Yeah, I'm not like let's not go like James Cameron crazy and have them all like bioluminescent neon blue, but just a little pop of blue can, I find, add some nice accents to an otherwise drab color pattern.
Yeah. And that's what we were working on last week. And then this week, I got a little ahead of myself. I will admit, because we were talking about the domesticate last time.
Hmm.
Hello, auroral anomaly. My goodness, I cannot read first thing on a Sunday morning. Let's see how good I do once I finish my coffee. So
Ooh.
this little guy coming off of here, though the body shape does resemble this 10A griffin a bit more. I was also, I don't know, looking at cheetahs, I suppose, and like maned wolves and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Uh, for more of a sleek body shape because these are more like cursorial hunters.
Hmm.
Um, I did want to give them little griffin-esque ears. I thought that would be fun. Um, they're living on the savannas. Having good ears and being able to look around for their prey was something that I figured would be important. Giving them longer legs for their high speed pursuits that they're engaging in. Um, and yeah, just doing some experimenting with that coloration with the polka dots.
So the ears thing is interesting because the so I read this paper at one point, which was really interesting, and I didn't really understand it very well at the time. But the authors were arguing that the development of external ears and pinnae in mammals, where we have this like very obvious um, external ear structure, is linked to the fact that unlike birds, mammals have, I'm going to get this wrong now, but mammals, the two ear canals in mammals are independent of each other. Is that it? Whereas in birds, they're like connected in some way. I can't
Hmm.
remember. But yeah, the point that they were making is that the external ear thing is like a specific to the particular way that the hearing mechanism evolved in mammals. But that being said, there are birds with ear tufts like owls. So,
Yes. So I could just make them tufts. I was also thinking of amphibians because these, do kind of break off in a different route from
mhm.
amphibiforms. And, I was thinking of like frogs and stuff, and they have tympanums and things, though, we have been doing the ears in a very like crocodilian way. So I may redo it so that they just have little ear tufts rather than ears proper.
Mm. I mean, I think it would make sense for the. I mean, this is actually one thing that one thing. This is one of the many things that I don't quite understand is that, like, I don't really see what the benefit is. Because, as you say, most amphibians have like a tympanic membrane that's very uh, external. It's visibly like on the surface. You can look at like a frog and see
Yeah.
its tympanic membrane. Whereas in all of the subsequent groups that have adapted for life on land, the tympanic membrane has retreated like further inside the head, and there's like an ear canal.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about acoustics, but to me, that would mean I would imagine that that would make it harder for sound to reach the tympanic membrane. Surely you want the tympanic membrane to be like as exposed as possible to sounds. but I mean,
You would
clearly I
think.
must be wrong.
Yo, glad to see you. Let's get that
Mm.
out of there, and then
But
let's make this a
yeah,
little
clearly there
bigger.
is some advantage to internalizing the tympanic membrane, so I think it would make complete sense if these suciforms do it as well.
Yeah. So they're going to have these little ear tufts instead. And I'll make them fluffy on the other side too. The important thing was more so the look rather than having an external
Mhm.
ear. And I think I probably just did that on reflex, which, for folks who are doing world building, it's important to, I guess, check that, right? Because the assumptions that we have when we're designing things, whether they're animals or worlds or like the physical geography or doing a culture, there are reasons for why these things happen, even if they are not readily apparent. So, you know, being able to check that after the fact or to get some feedback is important.
Mhm.
And I always remember back when was it Edgar and I were building the world. What were we doing? We're making Kretok, and he was surprised that we're building Kretok, and Edgar was surprised that places at like, I don't know, 40 odd degrees latitude on the eastern side of Ezri were so cold in the winter because they're at a similar latitude as Ireland, and Ireland doesn't get that cold in the winter. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, that's the important part of going through this process, right? Because that's something that actually happens on Earth, where on the eastern side of very large continents it gets quite cold. Meanwhile, on the western side, it stays quite warm. So, being able to kind of break out of some of those thought patterns
Mhm.
through these sorts of methods and through, interacting with folks is really important.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I thought he's quite cute. The
I
goal is
do.
to make something cute.
I do very much like the color scheme.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. They could have life in the upper atmosphere. I
Mhm.
think there are a lot of spec bio projects spec evo projects that have stuff
Oh,
floating around in gas giants.
this is a perfect opportunity to bring up. So I had a chat after SpecCon at the pub. I was chatting with someone who was into biochemistry, and we are talking about different possibilities for biochemistry and things. Biochemistry is one of those things that just absolutely just does not sink in to my brain for some reason. It just
Mm-hmm.
is, my brain refuses to process it. But he told me about this really interesting thing that's been proposed where apparently, so in the gas clouds in Venus, there's they have a very high concentration of sulfuric acid, which
Oh no.
on the face of it would be, very bad. Um, but let me actually get the thing that he specifically said. Um, yeah, so strong acids would normally be problematic for biomolecules because they catalyze hydrolysis. But it turns out that above 95% concentration, there actually isn't enough free water present in the water droplets in the Venusian atmosphere to hydrolyze anything. So it turns out a
Oh.
lot of biomolecules would actually be remarkably stable if they were suspended within these droplets of sulfuric acid. So apparently the exception to that is sugars, for whatever reason.
Mm.
Sugars would not be able to form, but you could theoretically get quite complex biomolecules based around a sulfuric acid medium, which I think is pretty awesome. And there's apparently some efforts to explore the Venusian atmosphere to sort of test this idea.
That's really cool. So no sugars, but you could have other complex
Mm.
biomolecules forming. Um, just to answer the question about the role they fill, they are cursorial pursuit pack hunters. And I guess they're at the shoulder, about a meter tall or so. What's that? 3 feet? About 3 feet.
Yeah.
Um, and then Kate was mentioning the trick, the reason things the way they are, figure out whether they're contingent, whether they're convergent, harking
Mm.
back to the 6 C's, and also uh, Bib's talk that
Mm. If
he
only
gave at
someone had
SpecCon.
made a presentation about that exact topic.
If only. Um, uh, and so one of the reasons why I wanted the little ear tufts, and it doesn't really matter if they are connected to the ears, um, and this can get us back on track, is that they can use them to communicate in their little
Yes.
packs.
Yes, I was actually going to bring that up.
So they are going to be using them to communicate with one another. For, because these are quite social critters.
Mm.
And Madeline says they look little and they'll eat your face. They probably would eat your face, but they are, yeah, they're about half a standard reference world builder tall.
So like big dogs.
Yes, and then I assume after domestication, a lot of them will become a little smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be social, and they're going to use their little ear tufts to communicate with one another. Um, Something I did like that I wanted to include, and I think I was initially turned to this by Nakari Speardane, who I believe is
Oh,
going to be participating in the World Building Festival
yes.
this year. Everyone wait for that. I think it's still going to happen the first week of September. That was a little up in the air. Um, because in Nakari's videos, her domesticated canines are wild
Mm.
dogs, painted dogs.
Mm.
I think African painted dogs. Uh, and I thought that was really cool because African painted dogs have a fascinating behavior where they generate consensus before going on a hunt.
Mhm.
So when they want to go hunting, they will communicate with one another in order to, make sure that most of the group or those who want to go hunting are positively responding to the idea of going hunting. And I think that is a kind of behavior that, foragers, as like, the ancient ancestral Zaaleans would pick up on. And it is something that they could participate in, or as they get closer together, um, the these critters could elicit uh, the ancient ancestral Zaaleans to come with them to
Mm.
hunt.
Yeah.
And this would be a um, and this sort of consensus generating behavior would be something that these hunters would also be practicing, because we see consensus generating and hunter gatherers, especially like egalitarian bands, very frequently.
Mm.
When you say they use your ear tufts to communicate, you mean as visual signs? Yes, they would use them primarily as visual signs. So, they
Mhm.
would kind of flop their ears and flop their
Yeah.
tufts in different directions in order to communicate different states. And this would be something that these critters would be quite attuned to. And then when they are in the process of domestication, they'll be able to use their ear tufts to communicate with people that they are around.
Mhm.
People will learn what they mean, or maybe they'll adjust what they mean slightly. Um, And then they will also be attuned to seeing small changes on the face so that they can interpret people as well. So I think that that kind of the cognitive capacity to understand facial expression, and
Mm.
then the behavioral mechanism to actually engage in these really small behaviors in social situations are, I think, important to generate and do really help in the commensal pathway.
Yeah, there's been a lot of co-evolution between dogs and humans, even across a relatively short time frame. You know, things like the mutual oxytocin production
Hmm.
um, when dogs and humans make eye contact with each other. Um, One thing that does occur to me that, I mean, it kind of depends on how these ear tufts are actually structured, but it's amusing that, you know, one of the common symptoms of domestication syndrome is floppy ears, because
Hmm.
the domestication process often leads to cartilage deformation as a modification of the neural crest. So it would be funny but also counterproductive if these things, if their ears just went floppy and they became completely incapable of adjusting them, and so they couldn't communicate anymore. But
What I think would be alternatively very funny, because these are tufts that are made out of whatever, fibers, whatever
Mhm.
filaments there are, they get longer
Mm,
because people select for
yeah.
ones that are more expressive.
Mhm.
Um, uh, so they get more like floppy and poofy, or more exaggerated.
Yeah.
Um, I think, yeah, because we are going to make them, yeah, they would be smaller. Um, but I do wonder the other ways in which, um, because I imagine it's just, these fiber structures are kind of around the muscles where the ear is. So I
Mhm.
didn't envisage cartilage. Now I don't envisage cartilage. I guess before I just kind of made it an ear. So, um,
Yeah, it could totally just be, yeah, filaments embedded within some kind of yeah, muscle or like, yeah, skin, etc. So that can just be um raised and lowered.
yeah.
Um yeah.
Oh, and Huelos says, "World, yep, I can't wait for the World Building Festival this year. It is going to be quite fun.
Mm, yes.
Bib and I are going to be talking about domestication. Um,
Yes.
I think that's going to be a two-parter.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be a good time.
I learned last year that, yeah, 2 hours is not actually nearly as much time as I thought it was.
Yes. Um, and then we've got the return. I'm also doing the return of the polity chart, and I think Nikolai is going to be joining me for that. Going to be talking about uh because what is it? Jake and Miles and Jake and Miles from Let's Have a Booba are going to be doing the next live series on this channel, which will start like mid July. And then we are going to be talking about the continent that we built the climate for. So that will be fun. Um, and then what else am I doing? I think those three things. Oh, Madeline and I are going to be continuing to develop our urban fantasy romantasy project, uh, which I really enjoyed. I thought that was quite amusing. I don't know if I'm doing anything else. I think that's it. I think that's enough.
I am doing, I think, 5 things at the moment, which is I'm trying not to get too crazy like I did last time. I think I was on 9 streams last time, which was a bit much, but
Yeah.
I am going to be helping Edgar to design a font for his current project. Um,
Oh, that's
I'm
cool.
going to be doing a thing with Jake and Miles and Hannah Smith for the prehistory of their world.
Nice.
Um, and then what else am I doing? Just doing the domestication videos, obviously with you.
Yep.
Um, and then I'm also going to be doing a thing with Madeline about how to generate, how to take a setting and come up with story ideas for it, which is something that I have struggled with a lot in my own work. And this is
Oh.
actually the latter half of the SpecCon trip. You know,
Mm.
Madeline and I spent a few days where um, we essentially, I can't remember how much of this I've already explained, but we went to like an old like castle turret that had been turned into like an Airbnb slash board game place. It was this,
Yes, I heard about that place.
yeah, it was very cool. And we spent our time there talking about stories and writing and stuff, which is something that I want to get back into because I haven't actually written like narrative fiction in like over a decade. But now I'm kind of re-inspired to do that again. So Madeline and I will be discussing such things. So yeah.
Fantastic. Um, yeah, and this is, I mean, this is primarily what I like to do when I'm writing. Like, I will build a world and I will build in interesting social, political, economic systems that will generate conflict.
Hmm.
Um, and the stories that I like to write are about these worlds in change, where you have these different systems um, encountering one another, and through the story, and I mean the characters are doing their own stuff, but the way that they interact with those systems is causing them to change. So in that way, I guess the world is kind of a character as well.
Mm. Yeah, my issue has been that like I can come up with settings and I can come up with conflicts in those settings, but for some reason, just turning them into an actual like narrative, there's just some
Oh.
disconnect in my brain that like possibly my favorite book of all time is the Silmarillion, and
Mm-hmm.
anyone who's read that knows that it reads like a history book. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the style of story that I'm, for whatever reason, my brain is just kind of predisposed to telling. So if I have some setting where, there's two factions and they're at war with each other, I just sort of write this very dry story of, oh, well, there's this place and this other place, and they had this battle and this other battle, and then this side won, the end. And it's like, it's just, oh, okay, well, that's not really a very compelling story. That's like a description of history, but it's not really a story. So I kind of want to
Yeah, I see what
change
you mean.
that.
Well, yeah, no. Madeline would be a great person to talk about that.
Mm.
I am interested in tuning in. What we got here? All right, so I've been writing down some of the names. So the carceurial, no, cursorial, yeah, cursorial griffins, uh, from the heraldry, the heraldic term, uh, is the going to be the courant. So like the running orange
Mhm.
griffins. That's these ones.
Makes sense.
This group is the rampant orange griffins. The rampant is like the heraldry where you've got like the lion or the griffin or something like up like that,
Yeah, yeah.
ready to fight. And I think that's a really good one for an aggressive kind of apex critter. And then we are working with um, these bipedal ones. So these ones are going to, of course, stay quadrupedal, but we're also going to have some bipedal ones. Um, so some of those are going to be, uh, I think, I don't think there is a French term connected with this. It's from the Latin into Middle English for heraldry. So the salient griffin, and then we're going to have the Fauconnais as and the Fauconnais is a heraldic attitude that's applied to like aggressive herbivores.
Oh,
Um, And I think I did a little doodle of something I was thinking along those lines before. Where's that doodle? That was a long time ago. And by long time, I mean like a couple months. Maybe not as long ago as I thought. Oh, here we go. Like these little guys. So being bipedal, I think we talked about having those longer claws.
Mm,
We also talked about having facial protection, especially if they're eating more spiky or defensive
mhm,
plants. And these ones develop in the more arid environments where the plants have more adaptations to deter predators.
mhm.
Yeah. So that
Very
one
good.
would be fun. But I'm thinking for the, and I can change it if I need to. For So I'm wondering which place you want to start with, whether we want to go bipedal first or whether we want to go to the apex carnivore.
Mm, I have no strong. One thing I'll just throw out while we're talking about cursoriality, just a
Hmm.
fun fact.
Fun fact.
That I think is kind of fun. The So in highly cursorial animals like cheetahs especially, they have an extremely flexible spine, which is a big
Hmm.
component of how they're able to run so fast. And in fact, the spine contributes so much to their running capability that a legless cheetah would still be able to run, quote unquote, at about 10 kilometers an hour.
Just from like wobbling around.
Yeah, yeah, just like essentially doing the worm. Just
How did they test this?
I don't know, but I remember learning about this in university and just thinking it was very cool.
I hope that's something where they used models. That's my goodness.
I hope so.
On the one hand, there's something that I was just remembering recently. I think in one of the whatchamacallits, in one of the Discord servers I'm lurking in, uh, someone brought up what was it? It was back in 2013, where I think Mark Pagel, who's like an evolutionary biologist, he tried to make a model where he applied um, some like uh, it's a model that works with like gene mutation to kind of trace back ancestry. He applied it to 23 words from languages in Eurasia. And this includes families like Indo European or Tungusic, but also like highly contested families like Altaic and
Oh.
Dene. And out of this 2013 paper came like, oh, he can trace back words to a hypothetic Eurasic language family 15,000 years ago. But it's like, no, you can't. Um, like one of the reasons why some of these evolutionary models work with like humans, for example, like if you take two humans and you place their genomes, into a model and you try to predict how closely related they are, we can do that. But and we can also have like based on different rates of gene mutation, um, we can kind of predict how closely related somebody is. But one of the reasons why we can do that is because we have older people and not just sapiens, but like other species of human that we can compare it to. Some of them
Mm,
are quite old. Like beyond, like we don't have any material from 15,000 years ago to compare to. And that's why, like with Indo-European, we have like the hypothesized Proto-Indo-European that goes back what 5,000 to 6,000 years usually.
something like that.
Yeah, and then Afroasiatic goes back like 8 or 9 thousand years. But that's because these are like very well documented language families. We have a lot of languages from those families. And we're able to trace those back to hypothetic um, ancestor languages. And we, I think based on the work that's done, it's highly likely that these proto languages existed, but like these reconstructions, even though they're very well reasoned, are still speculative, right? Like we don't know what they sound like.
Mhm.
Um, but like you can't do that 15,000 years ago, especially with like we don't know if the Indo-European languages are related to the Semitic languages, and if they are related, we don't know how they're related.
Mhm.
Um, so like yeah, just wild stuff. So like models work in certain circumstances, um, but yes, I would like to see the model for cheetahs doing the worm at 10 kilometers an hour.
I mean that I am fairly confident that we know enough about biomechanics to be able to do that without any no cheetahs were harmed in the making of this paper.
Well, and then there's been some other stuff that I remember, like what is it? The flexibility of necks and stuff in sauropods and things, because I was looking at that based on
Hmm.
azure griffins, and there's a lot of argumentation based on models, um, and uh, yes, I mean some of the arguments I find more compelling, but it's also because they base it in neck postures and things like that of animals that we can actually observe today.
Hmm.
But if someone refutes that with just my model says, I'm like, well, the model is a model, like it's
Yeah,
not.
like a lot of the older models at this point make the assumption that the animal will habitually hold its neck in the so-called osteological neutral position,
Oh, just like,
um,
yeah.
which is just yeah, if the like the neck being held in the position where the fewest stress is acting on it.
Hmm.
Um, but we know that that's not the case for
Yeah.
a lot of animals. Like if you look at rabbits, like rabbits actually have like really surprisingly long necks that are like bent back in this
Yeah.
weird like S shape, which you wouldn't necessarily be able to predict just from the skeleton. So yeah, sometimes weird stuff like that happens.
Yeah. So it's, yeah. So we can, yeah. So when we're using models, we want to make sure that we're kind of grounding it in other material, other resources, other sources, um, because what the model describes is simply what the model describes. It doesn't necessarily
Hmm.
reflect the real world in any meaningful way. Uh, and was there? Oh yeah, and then Pagel as well released a book, um, 2018, I want to say. It was called like Wired for Culture or something like that. Uh, and he's an evolutionary biologist. I just want to highlight that because he doesn't engage in like social sciences more broadly. He doesn't engage in linguistics, and he's just makes some baffling statements like, he's like, why are people multilingual? Like, how did multiple languages show up? And he uses like the contemporary distribution of languages uh, to kind of like make his arguments about why multilingualism exists. Um, and it's like not engaging with the fact that like nation states over the past few centuries have like made a concerted effort through various infrastructures and control to like impose single languages on large amounts of space. Or if we go back, even in the historical record, like the Italian peninsula, there were so many different Italic languages there, and even non-Italic languages like Etruscan and stuff like that,
Hmm.
um, where it seems to point to, and even after the Roman Empire dissolved, you had a bunch of Latinate languages show up. Um, so yeah, so even I think the evidence tends to point to that without concerted infrastructural effort to maintain some semblance of uniform languages over large amounts of space, people will just sort of generally shift to more, you know, regional languages, so that,
Hmm.
something like that seems to be more common. Anyway, Mark Pagel. And then occasionally, I don't know, you'll just see blogs posting about stuff that he's done with his uh, evolutionary model. Oh yeah, he essentially says that he can model culture and language the same way with um, evolutionary models for gene mutation, which just seems to be kind of like a redux of the whole like memetics memology thing. Like when Dawkins tried to apply, I think it was Dawkins, tried to apply the concept of
Hmm.
memes to anthropology, um, which didn't go over very well because he doesn't understand how culture works. So it just seemed to be a kind of redux.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Let
Dawkins was the originator of the term meme. So
yeah. All right. So let's do the bipedal ones. I'm interested in those because some of the bipedal ones could look quite dinosaur-like. Not saying these guys don't look dinosaur-like already. Um,
hmm.
but if we look at bipedal, crocodilomorphs, brilliant. All right. Well, we
Mhm.
do want something that is a bit more herbivorous looking. Nick's illustration saves the day. All right. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, okay. Poposaurid. I think you brought up poposaurids to me before.
Poposaurus is one of the sort of signature bipedal um, Rauisuchians, although Rauisuchia is no longer a thing. But yeah, bipedal crocodilomorph.
All right, we got a bunch of different bones. What do we got in here? Oh, Huelos. Oh, I think that's about stories and narrative and stuff. That's an older comment. Yep.
Mhm.
And then, oh, another star system in your project, Life on a Gas Giant, and Ice Giants with a triple star system. Well, that's that'll be quite complex with the triple star system. Of if they're close to each other. Usually, the other stars are quite far away. If you want something stable.
Hmm. Always wanted to make a gas giant biosphere, but I just never got around to it.
Alien Biospheres 2.
Yes, very much so.
The Return.
I definitely want to make a video about lighter than air organisms because for some reason that's been something that like a surprising number of people have suggested throughout alien biospheres. Like we got a small but vocal minority of people saying, when are we going to get, when are the trees going to evolve to float? Which I don't know where that idea comes from, but people seem to really like that idea.
Yeah, we do tend to like that is something I also tried to do for my private long running private project Hade. I was like, oh, let's have like lighter than air. Like I was thinking, could we get something like aeroplankton, so then people
Mhm.
could like do sky whaling. Um, but yeah, that just proved to be a little unfeasible. Though I did keep some of that stuff in. Like there are certain plants that kind of release a bunch of uh, kind of aerial seeds and things that you can see. So it kind of like, makes the sky full of like floating, um,
Hmm.
uh, floating seeds. They're kind of like, I don't know, like gooseberries have those, what is it? Those little like shells of little leaf shells, I guess. What was that? Yeah, see how they come in these little like paper-like packets? And
Hmm.
essentially, when there were strong winds during one of the seasons, it would kind of snap it off, and there would be a little seed inside, and it would float away. I thought that was quite fun, and there would be a bunch of different colors. Um, and then stuff ate that, but it never got anything quite large. I am planning on making some quite large herbivorous dragons, so I will finally get my sky whales.
Everyone loves sky whales.
Yes, they won't look like whales, but they will fulfill the purpose.
Yeah.
So for these bipedal ones, I was just kind of looking at stuff. They tend to have like a lot of them tend to have just like stubbier arms, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, again, it kind of depends on the way that they're feeding, because option one is just
Mm.
to have a long neck, and option two is to have longer arms to help reach up. So, like the
So
doodle
these
you
ones,
made. Hmm.
the Forcinet will have longer necks. I mean, the salient ones can have long-ish necks and have kind of
Mm,
shorter hands.
yeah, the little doodle that you made, did
Yes.
somewhat resemble Therizinosaur, which had both
I
a pretty long neck and also ridiculously huge claws.
yes, I believe that was what I was trying to channel.
Mhm.
Um, though you said that they also came from a carnivorous animal. Yes?
Yes, they are theropods, so they are within the same group. They're coelurosaurs, so they're within the same group as like raptors.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
and just for
Okay.
whatever reason, at some point, they just ended up becoming these giant rake-clawed sloth things.
Rake clawed sloth things. Well, maybe they won't have big rake claws. Maybe they can be more. Yeah, maybe their paws won't be clawed. Because
Mhm.
I do have the minotaurs, which have their big claws, which
Yeah.
are giving. Oh, shoot. This is what happens when I don't start drinking coffee until the stream starts. Um, what were they called? The mammals with the long claws. Gosh,
Calicotheres?
calicotheres. Thank you. Yes. So I don't want too many
Mhm.
calicothera-esque critters.
Sure.
Just to like maintain a sort of design
Mhm.
um, separation between them. And I do have like a lot of monotrematiforms are knuckle walkers with long claws.
Mhm.
Um, and I thought that was really fun because that's what platypuses do. They not walk on their knuckles when they're on land.
Yes.
So I thought I could use that both for some of the carnivorous creatures like the owl bears who have their long claws and they walk on their knuckles to kind of protect their claws from being degraded on the ground. Um, and then the brownies, which are related to the owl bears distantly, they have long claws, but they use them for digging. So when they're walking around, they, walk on their knuckles. And then the minotaurs have their long claws that they use to kind of um, grab branches and things like that with. So maybe these ones will look like, was it Therizinosaur?
Mhm.
Uh, but maybe with no long claws. Maybe they will look more huggable. And I did like that art. Uh, where was that for the Therizinosaurus? That is very fluffy.
Yes.
Kind of like I don't know, like an up. Yeah, I do like the very fluffy Therizinosaur.
Oh, what could happen, because if the arms are not actually playing that big of a role in feeding, um, then they could just reduce. They could,
Yes.
um, you could end up with something broadly similar to what happened with the abelisaurs, which are a group of dinosaurs which um, have these ridiculously small forelimbs. They look T-Rex look, dignified by comparison. Um,
I
and
do
they
like the
Mhm,
idea of these of the bipedal herbivores having stubby arms like a T-Rex,
mhm.
because most people when they think of a stubby-armed bipedal dinosaur-looking thing are thinking of carnivorous, like, these mega carnivores.
Yes.
So that is appealing to me.
And specifically in the abelisaurs, the fingers
Yeah.
have been completely jacketed, like within the skin, so they don't actually have any like external claws. They just have these little sort of finger nubs. Um,
What? Oh, looks like he's got no arms at all.
One
A
second.
lot of these abelisaurs look like they've got little.
Yeah, just really tiny little sort of mitteny hands.
I mean, if it's really fuzzy, then you probably wouldn't see the hands anyway.
Yeah, this is famously now in the first season of Prehistoric Planet.
Yeah.
The scene with the Carnotaurus that they reconstructed the tiny little forelimbs are potentially a means of like sexual display, and so in the males they're
Oh yes, going like
bright blue and
this.
they swivel around. Yes, because it is interesting that even though these arms are really, really tiny and they don't have like functioning digits or anything, the sockets that the forelimbs attach to the rest of the skeleton are really, really flexible,
Huh.
which, is kind of strange. If they're so useless, then what's the point of having them be so sort of posable? And so the idea is that this, yeah, is some kind of display structure. Um,
I do like that. I do like that a lot. But I mean, if these are really fuzzy, maybe if they can open their little arm nubbins, they can reveal brighter plumage.
yeah, it could essentially be like a peacock's tail kind of thing where
Yes.
they've got this
Love
big sort of
peacocks. All right.
splayed, almost wing-like structures that are normally just lie flat against the chest, but then by flexing these wings, they open up this big sort of radial display of plumage.
All right. So they're going to have little arms with
Mm.
mitten hands.
And the other thing about abelisaur forelimbs that's really weird is that they don't have elbows,
Oh,
um,
that's fun.
because the humerus, basically the entire length of the arm is just the humerus, and then the radius and ulna and all of the wrist bones have just been squashed into just the very tip where they can't really move anything, so they can't actually
Hmm.
bend their arms at the elbow. So very strange structures.
There we go. That's fun. Um, maybe that's too. I'll figure out the rest of this later, like I usually do, but I do just want to get the general shape in. And then one thing that we evolved these ones to do here is to have very large fat stores in their tails.
Mm.
to help them survive the sort of very unpredictable variations in the period that they are developing in. So I think keeping that would also be good because these animals are living in a more arid environment as well.
Mm.
And these creatures would also be the ones engaging in a lot of niche construction, especially if they're, roaming around eating a bunch of stuff. If they are the primary, well, if they're doing a lot of the work in eating things, they would be
Yeah.
shaping how the vegetation kind of responds to their existence.
Yeah. Clearing out areas of forest and converting them into shrublands and things.
Well, I think in this case it would more so be shrublands, kind of converting, keeping the shrublands. I mean, it would be like a mixed ecosystem, like just kind of keeping it open and mixed.
Yeah. Keeping it clear of trees and stuff.
Yeah. And then we want, I'll make it bigger just for fun. Um, and then have a little walking pose because they're all in parade. They're going to have little nubbiny arms, and I'll just draw them in. Oh yeah, they can't bend them.
Well, I mean, they can if you want them to. Like, if you want them to retain the elbow, that would be totally legit.
No. I like little nubbin arms with little mitten hands. This is ideal.
The other weird one is Linhenicus, which is a I can't actually remember what it is now. Yeah, it's an alvarosaurid it doesn't have any proper forelimbs. It only has a single finger emerging from its chest on either side of its body.
And then the other thing that we talked about. Wait, just a finger?
Yeah, just a single finger, no actual arm. Just yeah, two little fingers. And that's it.
We've talked about a little and then what do we want? A little spark of life thing there. There we go. Isn't that cute? The other thing that we talked about with these ones, and I'll probably change the dimensions here a bit because those legs look now quite massive. One thing that we can do is give them more like facial protection. So use those ossicones and things to make a crest that's quite, I guess, pronounced.
Yeah.
And this is where, let's see. And what are these guys? They have their, they just have they're the more the beaky ones, which is good. And for crests, maybe because they want to protect their eyes, so we could have these sort of bone horns maybe coming off around the face,
Yes.
which could make them look quite similar to the monotrematiforms, but this is also one of the goals was, with the beaks and things. So the people who come through are like, well, clearly these things are related because they have beaks. Dragons don't have beaks, so they are different. Even though the dragons are more closely related to the monotrematiforms than they are to these guys. I need to come up with something to call the monotrematiforms that isn't monotrematiforms. Because everything else has a fun name.
So you've got gryphons, you've got dragons. I mean, they include like the sprites and things, right?
Yes,
So,
they include the sprites.
Sprites and minotaurs, and trying to think of other sort of categories of mythical beasts. I guess
I may just call them beasts to distinguish them. I was thinking of beast. There we go. I don't know. I think I'm getting somewhere. I think that looks pretty good. And of course, there's going to be little scales back here as well.
Yeah.
Then they're going to have scales going down their backs. They do not need scales over their nubbin arms. Maybe they have some scales over their legs. I think that could be useful. But otherwise, it's going to go back here. And then they are going to have, very sloth-like hair that covers them. Like a shaggy carpet. I think they'll look a bit better when we actually when I get around to doing the parade. And let's just check. I just want to check again at because yeah, they're not Abelisaurs. I was losing something else for reference. There we go. How big are those legs? Yeah. Yeah, I think I need to change the posture a little bit.
I mean, if it's rearing up, that's one thing. But
yeah, I don't think it's rearing up.
That might be held a little bit more horizontally. It's a sort of neutral thing, yeah. I've gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole looking into names for categories of mythological creatures now. But
and what have you come up with?
I mean, Fae is the only one that I think is sort of universally applicable.
Fae, yes.
I mean, there's also Hulda, which is apparently in Scandinavian folklore. There is a forest being called. It's a little bit confusing, but it's called Hulda, but it says that folklore presupposes an entire race of creatures known as Hulda, of which this Hulda is only the archetypal one. So, I don't know.
Hulda could be interesting. I do like Fae, though. Arukian fairies.
Mm-hmm.
That could be an interesting one. And then the other one would be what would the other group be? And then yeah, I guess Zaalea can have beasts, Rukian fairies and Elaean beasts.
Mm-hmm.
I'll sit on that for a bit. It's been something I've been kind of procrastinating about, to be honest.
I feel like there's an obvious one that I'm missing. That there's like a
Yes, shiny, colorful armpit hair. This is very important. I'll use those words exactly. How big is that? Yeah, I'll make it a bit smaller. And I imagine that their chests will also be brightly colored.
yeah.
They've got ossiplates on their face for protection. And yeah, because and also something with the metamorphlora that I'm excited about is that a lot of these plants are purposefully um, they have like spines and prickles and all sorts of spiky things.
Mm.
Because I don't think that gets enough play. I do see a lot of people making plants that are like eating people or things. But I don't see as many plants that are, you know, spiky and whatnot.
Yeah, I am still I'm not a botanist, but I'm I consistently feel like plants do not try very hard to defend themselves. Like, it would be very easy for plants to develop, spines or poison or other ways to deter herbivores from eating them. But very
Well,
few of them actually bother.
I think, I think a decent amount of them do. It's just we eat them anyway.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know, like capsaicin and lots of plants have tannins and stuff like that.
Yeah, and grasses have like silicates and things to wear
Yeah.
down herbivores' teeth and stuff. I guess. I just I feel like if they really wanted to avoid being eaten, there are ways to do that they're just not bothering with.
Well, and
But
some of
then
them
again,
want to be eaten because they
true.
grow a lot quicker um, after being eaten. So
Yeah,
being eaten is also like a strategy they could have.
yeah. And in evolution, it's important to keep in mind that the goal is not to be the best or the most efficient. As long as you live long enough to reproduce, then
It's
you
good.
have done your job. Yeah.
Cancer is a later problem. What are we on? Humans are just very good at eating things that kill everything else. Yeah, we are. Though there are some things that like birds can eat that we certainly cannot. Um, and then there's like some strategies, like a lot of plants will produce like latexy substances and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like dandelions and stuff, right? Like they have a latex like milk inside of them that deters
Hmm.
predation. But then there are animals, particularly insects, that eat um, plants that produce latex anyway, because the latex is in like specific parts of like a leaf or whatnot, and really small things can just kind of eat around it.
Hmm.
Um, Though I suppose a lot of plant defenses are primarily aimed against like funguses and stuff.
Yeah.
Seems to be the bulk of their issue is being attacked by
Hmm.
fungus, and being eaten by a larger herbivore maybe not a priority. That foot looks bad. Let's just keep it more abstract so I'm not. All right, so we got this guy. That's looking all right. I think that's looking pretty good. Probably take some time to hone in on the design later. So we've got, oh yeah, no, that leg is terrible. Anyway, then Soup Crime had another idea here. Parasitic epiphyte. More or less Ship of Theseus's a host plant. Ooh,
Like a
that's fun.
strangler fig. Good. I love strangler figs. They're one of my favorite plants.
Need to confirm. Is it like a strangler fig? And I think before we move on to the other bipedal one, we can have our break. I am pretty much out of coffee. Bib, how are you doing for tea?
Yeah, I ran dry about 15 minutes ago, so I could definitely use some more.
Oh wow, it's 11:16. Yeah, no, we need to jump back into this. So
Mm.
we're going to take our break, and in that time, if you could venerate the great green dragon, whose body is the earth and whose golden tail is the sun, in the way that best suits you. I have a nice sunny day today, but for those of you who don't, please venerate the dragon so that you too can have the life-giving sun.
I
And
also have a nice sunny day today, which is not
wow,
typical.
so if you too want a sunny day like Bib, please venerate the great green dragon, and we'll be back in a moment.
Mhm. Very good.
And we are back.
Hello.
You must have angered Zeus. Well, I think Zeus has nothing on the Great Green Dragon. Zeus lives
I'm
on the Great Green Dragon. Come on.
I'm very envious. I love thunderstorms.
Yeah.
They are probably the thing I miss the most about living in the US.
Yeah, and we don't get them out here either on the West Coast. It's more of a continental air mass thing. I think they do get them sometimes in like Vancouver and stuff like that. We did have one, I think last summer, but they're quite rare.
We are lucky if we get one thunderstorm per year, and
Yeah.
usually it's like one or two very quiet thunderclaps, and then it moves on.
Mm-hmm. You were thinking your plant. Oh, yes, this epiphyte breaks into the host and takes over from the inside rather than just strangling the outside and using it as a glorified stake, like the strangler fig seems to.
Hmm.
Ooh,
An internal. I
parasitic
guess it would
plant.
need to like burrow into the cambium of the host.
Hmm.
And I mean, there are some fungi that do similar things. So yeah, that could work, I guess.
Yeah. And now that we're back, just a reminder to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Feel like you can leave a comment or hype if you can as well, because that really helps. If you'd like to provide more support to the channel and you're able, you can head over to the Patreon and you can sign up. And even the lowest tier gets monthly sneak peeks into what's happening in the next video. And I think this month will be the last sneak peek because I am almost done all of the art for the next ecoregion video. It
Oh,
has taken more time than expected because I had an academic conference I had to prepare for and then go to, and I helped. I volunteered to like help the thing happen, and then I also had to do some traveling in April that kind of pushed me off by about a month or so. Um, and yeah, if you'd like to read more about that before it's out in the next few weeks, you can head over to Lands Unknown on Patreon. If you'd like to support Biblaridion over on working with alien anthropologies on Tira 292B, then Patreon, Bib's Patreon is also in the description.
thank you very much.
Uh, of course. What was the um oh, and I've been referring to Tira 292B as like or something because they make their little hissing striation-y.
Yeah, I that is on the to-do list to do at some point relatively soon is work out what sounds they're even capable of producing.
I imagine like teeth gnashing sounds maybe, though that may not be make noises.
I mean, they've got their resonating chambers, so they can definitely produce like constant airstreams, and they've
Ooh.
got, you know, the equivalent of like vocal folds. So, but I will have to speak with my contacts who know more about sound production than I do.
See, this is why I chose legally distinct humans.
Hmm.
All right, so now we're going to work with the salient Tane griffins. And I'm thinking they can look, if we take this sort of body shape, more or less, and I was kind of thinking of like proposaurids. I mean, we could also have, the shorter arms as well. Not using. I mean, this one looks a little unbalanced, so we'll probably shift up the stance a bit. because some of those. Did I mess up? Yes, I did. I didn't do it on the second layer. Always check your layers, folks. Oh, that was brilliant. Oh, and somewhat related to Spec Evo, or speculative biology or whatever. I watched Disclosure Day. That Spielberg alien movie.
I have heard of it, but I know next to nothing about it.
It's, yeah, I think it draws on a lot of like alien sort of conspiracism lore, which I'm aware of, so I didn't find it very surprising. That looks too dinosaur-esque for me. Let's look at some more of those. Yeah, I think visually it was a very fun movie. But I was... Are any of these... Do we have any herbivorous poposaurids?
I tried looking into that, and I don't think there are any that are confirmed as being like dedicated herbivores.
These ones don't have the kind of long necks I'm looking for.
So yeah, are we aiming for like a long sort of swan-like neck, or
these ones don't need as long of a neck? Like I do like that sort of shape because it matches like having this whip-like tail. We can have fat storage in the fatter part of the tail. And then, yeah, having these legs here and then being in a more like level posture without that swan-like neck. All right, so that would mean and it needs a little bit of a tilt that way. Yeah, it's a bit better. I also don't want to spend too much time because we've talked about them. We talked about the other ones a little bit as well. But one of the things is these ones, because they're living in a more open environment, which is formed of these mixed like a mixed biome, like more of a savanna biome, but characterized by a mixture of shrubs and herbs, where the trees are, more like riparian, I suppose. They do need to be a little quicker. Their long tails kind of help them, and I guess more flexible spines. Do bipedal critters like this move quicker than a quadrupedal one? Just kind of an idle question.
I'm not sure if there's like a definitive answer. Like, I don't think it's necessarily the case that if you are a biped, then you necessarily move faster than a quadruped. But I mean, a lot of small bipedal, like a lot of the early dinosaurs and things would have been quite fast and agile. So yeah, it
Is it?
was.
I've seen a lot of stuff, especially on the comments to your videos, about how it is more efficient. Um,
Mm,
uh, but I'm wondering if that is actually
yeah, I mean, again, it kind of goes back to like evolution isn't necessarily about
efficiency.
efficiency.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if that's the case, then why haven't mammals all become bipeds by this point?
Yeah. Very good point.
Um,
Oh yeah, these guys also have the little dewlap things.
hmm.
That's important. Where do we want those to go? How about here? This one needs one too. I think that'll add to the display. Where am I drawing? This one's going to be much more colorful than I anticipated, and I like it.
The armor on the head could be relatively sort of drab, could just be black or brown, whereas the part where it's like properly wants to display or show off on the chest, that could be very colorful.
Yeah, it's going to be like this kind of color.
Mm.
Same group. So yeah, it's going to be like a darker, it's going to be drab, kind of brown, tan color, if we will.
Out of curiosity, are any of these ones living in cold places?
They could, yes. So I imagine them. Where are we? Let's get rid of the Griffin Parade for a sec. Oop. Yeah, because I imagined that they would be more concentrated in yeah, like probably more in the interior areas, at least for a while. Maybe more, yeah, more in the interior areas. So even if we restricted them to like in here, then we've got some cold deserts up in these regions and some of these more microthermal climates with microthermal dry winter, wet summer climates.
Because just the silhouette that you were drawing there kind of it reminded me of just some it's broadly similar in design to like ornithopod dinosaurs.
Oh,
And just one that comes to mind is Lielanosaura, which is this species from Australia, I believe.
how do we spell Leelanosaura?
It's a tricky one. It's Leaeallylly.
Oh, here we go.
And yeah, Lielanosaura.
Yes. Ah, very cute.
Yes, they were featured in Walking with Dinosaurs, although the
sense.
construction is somewhat outdated. But the weird thing about Lielanosaura is that it's got this really long tail that's 3 times the length of the rest of its body. And
Fun.
unlike most other ornithopods, because most dinosaurs in general have these special ossified tendons that help to keep the tail stiff so
Yep.
that they can hold them out behind them. Lielanosaura does not have these tendons, so it would have had a much more flexible tail. And yeah, one of the
This is
ideas,
beautiful.
one of the ideas
10
is
out of
that the
10
tail
reconstruction.
was extremely fluffy, and as a way of keeping itself warm, it would wrap itself up on its own tail.
Oh, that's adorable. Okay. Yes. I love that. That's adorable. Yeah, we can add that on. So the tails are going to be for display. Tails. Ah. All right. So then these ones aren't going to have the same kind of. I can make their. Oh, wonderful. That's really good. I like that size right there. What's going on? Spark of life. I have to say, doing these every week has made my line art much better. One of the reasons why I started doing more like fully rendered art, like for the in a more painterly style, as I have like experience painting and stuff. But my line art, I didn't feel was particularly good. But now, having practiced it, getting more
Hmm.
confident in how I like to do it.
This is with the live streaming thing. I had
Yeah.
not done any live streaming before now because I just don't think I'm very good off script, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think I would be able to say enough to like fill up the time. But now with the Languages of Pillar World streams that I've been doing with Maddie and the World Building Festival and all that, I feel like I have, yeah, I'm now familiar and comfortable enough with the format to potentially do some live streaming of my own at some point. Potentially. I make no promises.
Well, I think one thing for me, which I'm still learning, so because it helps to have a co-host or someone else on as well, is like talking while I'm doing it. It's definitely still a bit of a struggle.
Mhm.
All right, so we can have one with a bushy tail. Let's see. And it was 3 times the size of its body?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's move this one over a little bit.
Yeah, of course, this is the idea of the fluffy tail is still definitely speculative.
Well, this is speculative evolution, so we can do whatever we want.
Yes.
Okay, so we are starting here. Let's just, because they're chonky. I did like the chonky tail as well. I like the chonky
Mm.
recreation. I'm totally, yeah, I'm totally gonna make one of these that's a little chonky. Maybe they'll eat these. Maybe there's like a little one of these that's very, very plump.
Mm.
so if we get it going to here, and then I can add some fluff. And of course, the top's not going to be fluffy because the top has some scales. There we go. May end the fluff off a little earlier, just so we can have a stronger distinction between the body and the tail. And I can make this one a male, just to give the brooding pouch in there.
Mm.
And I'm thinking for these ones, they wouldn't be that dimorphic sexually. And in their packs, they would probably have, I guess in biology, they call it like female dominance. Though the concept of dominance in biology doesn't necessarily track in anthropology. Yeah, you know, there'd be more like of a matriarchal society, so it would be the mothers in the pack that are the ones who are kind of directing things, though. You know, it would probably there would probably be, especially perhaps in smaller packs or in certain groups, it would more so be the pair, you know, the mother and the father, that would be kind of running the family of animals. But in the larger groups, these pairs would be probably ranked in some way based on the relationship to the dominant, you know, female courant griffin.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they will be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Excellent.
Because we're keeping monogamy as like a the sort of default breeding system among all of them, right?
I think that was kind of the basis for the original ones, but for example, I imagine that the Trapon Griffins, I was thinking they would have reverse harems, I suppose, like that hawk
Yeah.
we were talking about.
Yes, the Galapagos hawk.
Right. So, but this, you know, the female Trapon Griffins would over deposit their egg. What deposit their eggs? No need to egg deposit the eggs. They would deposit their eggs into the brood pouches of the male Trapon Griffins in their harems. So, yeah, they probably cycle between the males that they would deposit their eggs into. So, yes, so them, and for that reason, the female Trapon Griffins would have larger tusks. They would have larger crests. You know, they would kind of take on the display, and they would be the ones that would be competing for territory. And you know, you probably have bachelorette herds of Trapon Griffins that are in the peripheries of the territories of the dominant female Trapon Griffins with their harems of male Griffins. And those bachelorette herds would be the ones who would be, trying to like peel off um, male griffins in order to kind of make their own, uh, new harem herds, I
Mhm.
suppose. Right. So, yeah. So that is what I imagined for their behavior. Um, I wasn't. Oh, and then for these ones, we have the sort of lekking behavior that the um, griffins would engage in. And it would be interesting for these ones if it was the male griffins that are doing the lekking, so that their brood pouches are the things that are brightly colored.
Mhm.
Um, so, we can have a variety of, quote unquote, male and female dominance in these critters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to be, working on making some larger versions of this more heavily armored one. Perhaps some of them stop specializing in eating wood, and they start using their what was it, like iron rich teeth, pseudobeaks, to start eating the more dense or like more fibrous uh, metamorphora leaves and things like that, and stems in addition to wood, allowing them to become bigger. And then the herds of these things could, follow the path of these ones as well and engage in more male dominant behavior,
Mhm.
where they're the ones that are more aggressive in controlling territory and those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So I I,
Yeah.
I do imagine a broader spectrum, though I do think that our sort of initial where'd that one go? Yeah, this initial one here could have been more um, monogamous
Yeah.
in order to kind of facilitate a place where different strategies could emerge amongst
Yeah.
the variety of descendants.
Yeah. The male brood pouch thing definitely biases them in favor of more selective males,
Hmm.
but that doesn't preclude, things like polygyny or lekking,
Yeah.
etc. So yeah, it's
Well, yeah,
still
because
got a
among
lot of
like
stuff
seahorses
to
and
play around with.
blobfish, we do
Yeah.
see some where it is the males who are also doing the brooding, or in this seahorse case, gestating, who
Mhm.
are the ones who are selecting. So no, who are sorry, who are the ones who have the displays. So it is the females in those cases that are selecting, which is interesting. Uh, and there are some cases where both of them are selecting, and both groups are pretty promiscuous. Um, I haven't, and I do think that would be interesting for the um, what is it? The lizard-like ones. Where are they? There we go. These ones. Um, if both groups are quite promiscuous,
Mhm.
um, because if the uh, female insectivores can deposit their eggs in a variety of um, male insectivores, and the male insectivores, you know, can collect eggs from a bunch of the different females and fertilize them as they wish, then that could create quite an interesting situation where they're all very colorful and
Mhm.
competitive amongst themselves.
Mm. And then in the eusocial ones, that kind of, at least initially, demands monogamy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they become eusocial second. Yeah. So that's the limbless ones are kind of go down their own little path there.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, we wrote so much about those ones. All right, let's get back to. Here we go. So we got the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed salient Tene griffins. Oh, I'm gonna merge some layers here, and then the last ones that we got are the uh, 50 to 25 million years ago, rampant orange griffins. And I'm wondering what we can do to make these larger and more fearsome.
And we want to keep them as quadrupeds.
Ideally, we would keep them as quadrupeds.
Cool.
Because I do enjoy the idea of having the apex predator be quadrupedal.
Mhm.
And because they do look like, I don't know, tyrannosaurs and like related dinosaurs like Albertosaurus and those sorts of things. So I'd
Mhm.
like to keep them quadrupedal to have like more distinct.
Well, one direction that would be quite different from any archosaur that I can immediately think of is if they rely more on their forelimbs for catching prey. So with longer
Yes.
forelimbs and shorter, more robust necks, so you get more sort of like it's bear-like in terms of overall shape.
Okay. I enjoy this. I'm gonna save this. This is good. Need to. This is brilliant. I have. I think making a critter that looks kind of like this out of that salient group, and then making them the equivalent of like, I don't know, guinea pigs or something, like something small that people in Zaalea like keep and reproduce to have like stable source of protein or something. Because they do look like little meat containers. They look like little nuggets.
I'm sure you could
Uh,
use the tail for something.
yeah, and they could be fancy. People have fancy chickens. You can have fancy. And yeah, so you could use all of the little filaments on the tail to like
Mm,
put on hats or
yeah.
capes and belts and skirts and other things like that. That'd be great. Bear, yes.
Bear Grylls. Yeah. They'll evolve to look
Yes,
exactly
the
like
most
Bear
relevant
Grylls.
bear. Let's look at what do they call them? Arcturus or something? No.
Which one are we going for? The
I just wanted to see the big bears, the
oh,
skeletons
like a
of the big bears.
short-faced bear?
No, I want this one to be a long faced bear. It's just kind of more
Okay.
looking at the body shape.
Hmm.
Um, okay, let's go. I swear one of them was called like Arcturus or something.
I mean, Ursus arctos is the
Arctos. There we go.
that's always used to trip me up when I was younger because arctos, you think Arctic, right? So you'd think that
Yes.
Ursus arctos would be the polar bear, the Arctic bear, but it's not. It's the grizzly bear. The polar bear is Ursus maritimus.
Maritimus.
Because
Bear.
arctos in Latin and earlier Italianate languages just means bear. And it's called the
Mm,
Arctic because of the constellation
right.
that appeared in the north.
Show me the bones. Gotta have like a more complete skeleton of one of these things. I mean, there's a skeleton. I just want to see it sideways. Yeah, I do like. Okay. And we can still have quite a big head.
Yes. If the claws could just be the means of actually catching and just restraining the prey, and then the
Mm-hmm.
jaws could be the thing that actually, delivers the killing blow.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was one of the original ideas. I think that's good. That is good.
Hmm.
So yeah, we can have them deliver a killing blow. Okay. Yeah, and we can still give him that kind of fat tail. All right, that's good. And this also, I feel it kind of goes with, where is it? I think I removed it from the file. But like I think I showed it a few ones ago where it's like a big brown, bear-looking griffin with like green, but that color scheme was then taken for the herbivorous griffins. So,
Mhm.
so I think that works. That kind of goes in with what I was considering from before. Okay, yeah, we want like a big barrely neck. Well, is that the neck? Yeah, that's the neck. All right. And we can have the head here. That comes down. And then we do want these I do like the crest that we got there. That's kind of a bit of a triangle. Good, good, good. All right. And then these are the ones that are essentially going to be like the apex predators that are just occupying their niche because they are the ones that are large enough to do it.
Mm.
While the sanguine griffins, the baboon-faced ones, are more or less going to occupy many of the other niches that some of the rampant and courant, like these older griffins, occupied.
Mhm.
Because I
There's a
imagine
sort
that
of
some of these orange griffins would be quite small, taking up a
yeah.
variety of niches. And perhaps some of them could have been arboreal at one point, but then the sanguine griffins kind of take that from them.
Mm.
I think that's probably the thing we'll do next week. Um, Too small. All right, we're gonna make this guy a bit smaller so it can fit. I don't know if anyone in the chat has opinions about the monotrematiforms being called fairies. I don't know. I kind of like it. And I
I still
also,
feel like I'm missing. It feels like I'm just forgetting a name for like, because you got fairies, you got fae. It feels like there's another term for that sort of category of being that I'm just not remembering.
all right, so we've got, and yeah, I'll probably put the other leg here. Boom, boom. Probably have to change that a bit. And then this one would actually be better moving forward. So that one can be the one in the back. Was that seethe? I think that's pronounced seethe.
Oh, the
Yeah, Kate just...
she
She.
from Celtic, yeah. The way it's looking right now kind of reminds me of the, at this point, very outdated reconstruction of Megalosaurus from Crystal Palace Park.
Oh.
It's like one of the first ever reconstructions of a dinosaur back in 1880 something, I want to say. 1854.
I just thought the numbers would appear. Oh my goodness. 1854.
Megalosaurus, or if you just go Crystal Palace dinosaurs, that'll probably.
Wow. Yes. Fantastic. You know what? Yeah. Hey, Goody Rictus. Caught us at the tail end here, but yeah, no, that is exciting. So then we're gonna come up here. I'm probably gonna move the head out a bit more. Hmm. And then this leg can move over a bit. I will fix it in post. And then that can come down and out. Do want the tail to be a bit more. What's going on here? Oh yeah, I just have a different posture for the tail, and the other one it's more of an upward. There we go. I'll make him look like he's walking after the fact. And I can give him his scales and his eye and his beak. And then we should be good to go. That's too big. Too big of a brush. Okay, so we want the mouth, I guess, to goes back here, down, up. Hello, Matthew Awesome. Did you play any board games in the castle?
Did we? I don't think we actually did.
What? They had
Yeah,
a board
I think
game
we
castle
were.
and you didn't play any board games?
We did play board games. Um, we played David's board game.
Oh, well, of course.
That was when we were in Dublin.
Yeah.
And I felt kind of bad because my character turned out to have an ability that was completely overpowered and basically won us the game.
Well, that seems like a design oversight there.
Oh yeah, it caused much discussion afterwards about whether or not it should be changed.
If your name begins with a B, you win the game.
Wasn't quite that broken, but it was. I mean, it was a combination of two things. That the basically I could create a little well, I think it was, that anytime I or any of my allies touched it, we got some health back. And so all we had to do was just hang around by this well, and we could just heal constantly. And then at one point, so we were playing as the cats, and the cat's special ability is that when they die, or when they are reduced to 0 health, they can come back to life with 1 health. I believe that you come back with 1 health.
I see how this could be a problem if you are standing near the thing that you get to heal by touching, and you immediately come back to life with 1 health if you get taken out.
Well, not only that, but at one point I got poisoned. And so when I was reduced to 0 health, I came back, and David ruled that because I had effectively died, when I came back, I would not be poisoned. So not only do I come back to life, but all debuffs are removed. And then I could just stand next to this well and heal back up again. So, yeah.
I can see how that would prompt a lot of discussion.
Yes. But we did not, to my memory, we did not actually play any board games in the board game turret castle. We had many other things that we were working on.
Exciting.
Yeah.
And did you manage to finish your talk before before you had to give it?
The convergence versus contingency one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That was I had that finished at least a week or two beforehand, but for the first few days while we were in Ireland, the others were kind of David and Jesse especially were still kind of finishing up. And Madeline as well.
Yeah, I looked at Madeline's before she presented it. I feel, yeah, and I saw some of the photos. Your crack team of artists really came in clutch there. Is it just older stuff that you're able to reuse?
Yeah, I just have all of the many thousands of illustrations that have been submitted over the years, and you
just have a pool of content that you can draw on.
Yeah, it is very useful.
I can imagine. Since for me, like a lot of the time comes from having to having to make the assets myself. Though I did impose that on myself. So
yeah, I mean, if it weren't for the artists, I would still only be like on episode 8 or 9, probably, just because so much of the time is saved just by the artists contributing stuff. Like for some of those episodes, they got like more than 500 submissions.
Whoa.
Yeah. And that was such a ludicrous time saver. That was great. But now that I have resolved to make shorter, more manageable videos, I can actually contribute art to my own stuff, which is good.
All right, I think he's starting to come together.
Hmm.
He's a little sideways, but maybe the head's a bit too big. We were looking at a bear. I don't know. Maybe the head comes down a bit too low. I think that might be the problem. And whenever I'm just painting, whenever I'm sketching and using markers and stuff, I always do like the hand commands that I have programmed into my iPad. So I'll be drawing something and I'll be like, oh, I hate that line. And then I'll like double tap to like undo. But of course, it's a pen. It's paper and pencil. I cannot simply undo my artwork. But they are very different, like mechanically in the styling. I think that looks that looks fine.
For the forelimbs, something else is just if it's using like these sharp claws to restrain its prey, then theoretically it could have claws that are like raised off the ground in some way. Kind of like, raptor claws or even retractable claws, theoretically.
Theoretically, because it's just because dogs don't have retractable claws, but cats do.
Yeah, because dogs typically just use their jaws to take down prey, whereas cats use not only do they use all of their limbs to domestic cats have that kicking behavior. If you've seen them like catch a bird or something, and they like kick with their back feet. But they also climb trees, so retractable claws are very useful for that as well.
Do any other critters have retractable claws?
The Madagascan fossa have convergently evolved retractable claws because they also are semi-arboreal. They climb up into trees to raid nests and things. The gray wolf, the gray fox. Yeah, the gray fox has semi-retractable claws. It's the only canid that has semi-retractable claws.
Are there any non-mammals that do this?
Not that I can immediately think of. I feel like there's some nebulous sort of halfway example that I'm just not really thinking of at the moment. I mean, it kind of depends on how you define a retractable claw, because like a raptor claw is basically the same concept of a retractable claw. It's just having a way to retract the claw so that it is no longer touching the ground, if it can be raised off in that way.
Yes. Because bears, their claws aren't retractable.
No.
I mean, the one option would be to just give it that's much too big. I don't know what. Okay.
Yeah. It kind of, if it's just a matter of, if they just like wrestle their prey to the ground,
Yeah.
If it's just more a matter of brute strength, then they wouldn't really need sharp claws for that. Whereas if these are things like if they're chasing like fast running prey, if they need to really like grip tightly to the thing that they're pursuing, then they might develop sharper claws. That could actually even be like a specific subgroup of these things that develop
Yes.
some kind of specialized catching claw.
Catching claw. I like that. All right,
Mm.
let's include that. I don't know what that'll. Yeah, I'm not sure what that'll look like yet. Um, I do like the idea of this thing being in the shrubbery or being in like a riverine glade of trees, and then you know one of these things, is kind of wandering close to eat, and it just bounds out and wrestles it to the ground.
Mm.
That would be properly terrifying.
Yes. It kind of actually reminds me of saber-toothed cats, in the sense
Yeah,
that, yeah, we now know that, yeah, the saber teeth are really brittle. And
really.
so, yeah, there's a load of some very high percentage. I want to say something like half of all Homotherium specimens, which Homotherium is one of the most common um, genera of saber-toothed cats, and something like half of them have their sabers are snapped off, and we can tell by looking at the osteology that this wasn't an artifact of how they were preserved. They were actually in life. They would have been broken off by a shearing or twisting force. So basically, these animals had to really make sure that their prey was properly subdued. It wasn't going to thrash around at all before
Yeah.
they actually bit them with the sabers, because if otherwise, the sabers might get snapped off, which would be very bad news for them. So what we think they would have done is they would have worked together, possibly as a pack, to push the prey to the ground underneath the weight of their bodies and properly wrestled them. And only when the prey was completely at their mercy did they actually properly bite with the teeth.
I like that. So it's wrestling prey down with its front paws here, which will have little claws, but I mean, that's not the primary purpose of the claws. And then they will need to make sure that all the feet are on the same plane. We'll have to go back and do that later. And then they will just deliver this bite. So there can be some pack hunters as well. Relatively smaller because all these things are pretty big.
Yeah.
All right. I think this leg is pretty chonky. And now I just made it worse. All right, well, we'll get around to that at a later point. So, yeah, I think we have covered the major changes and groups of the orange and Tane griffins. And yeah, next week we can circle back to the continued evolution of the rose griffins, because we're going to talk about the sanguine griffins, the arboreal insectivores that start. And what was it? I think there are egg hunters. We discussed that, who then transition to the ground. And that transition, I suppose, will happen at the boundary of the 25 million year mark. No, it'll happen around the 25 million year mark, which is like the boundary between the previous, the 50 to 25 million year geologic period and then the contemporary geologic period. And that should be good because we'll have outlined most of the prominent groups of these gryphons. So, sort of contemporaneously, we will have, these sort of forms that are kicking around still, probably a variety of them. We'll have the insectivorous ones. We'll have a bunch of these eusocial ones, which will be all sorts of colors, including, little wormy ones that have diversified into different groups, with the tyrants in there instead of the king and queens.
Oh, yes.
We'll have a bunch of different Vert griffins around. I haven't done the Gardon griffins yet. Those are the smaller, robust ones that are more grazing than browsing, where the Trepon griffins are more browsing than grazing. So I've got to get those in there too. But we've got these groups. And then I don't think I'm missing anything. No, yeah. And then these groups. And then these herbivores, the Zaaleans and Flossenae, Tane griffins will be a group that is becoming more widespread, but was previously, kept more in the interior of Zaalea. But as the CO2 goes down and the more herbaceous metamorphflora starts to spread more, creating more of these mixed biomes, they'll spread out more. So then we'll have these bipedal Tane griffins living side by side with the quadrupedal Vea griffins. Very fun. And then from last time, I also have the heights here. So this is all the griffins that we worked on prior to last week. And then I also have this. So we can see.
Damn, that's big.
Yes, quite big. And that one's green. I mean, we're making it azul. So yeah, we're going to make it blue. But I'm quite excited. And I also, I think in the previous Griffin parades, I mixed up the height of the rampant Griffin that we had before. I made this one smaller than it should have been. But now it's properly to scale. But yeah, fantastic. So, thank you everyone for joining us today in Lands Unknown. Bib, did you have anything that you wanted to cover before we log off for the stream?
I don't
Any
think so.
shout-outs?
The talk that I gave at SpecCon is out, which
Yep.
you can go watch on the Madeline James World Build channel. And there will be the other talks from the other speakers that will be released over the next few weeks, every few days. Yeah.
Yeah, I put it earlier in the chat, so you'll be able to access it there. I'm just showing it on the screen here. And nice stream. Yeah, thanks so much, Writer2. Thank you for everyone who hung out here. To all of our regulars, remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone next week for the last entry in the Speculative Evolution series for the Griffins that we're doing right now. And hopefully we'll have Bib back for another Spec Evo series in the future. If not, I mean, the next time will probably be for the domestication videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Look forward to that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, everyone, and see you next week. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Oh, gotta keep hitting end stream.